Good afternoon, everybody. The title of my talk this afternoon is Remember. And during camp, something reminded me of it, and I went to my notes app, created a new folder called Talk Ideas, and wrote this concept down. And now it's coming in handy. So we're going to talk about sort of the importance of remembering. First I'll start out by asking a question. Who here knows that we have a working God in our lives? Should be every single one of you. And, working as in helping us, taking care of us, loving us, those sort of things. Should be everyone. And you may be thinking in your head, of course we know that. We hear it every Sunday and Wednesday. We know that, we know this, but we need to remember it. And there are a lot of occasions and a lot of different instances when some people have that in their mind only at the meetings, when you need to have it at the forefront of your mind at all times. It's easy to store information in your brain and keep it somewhere in the back and just leave it there and not really think about it too many times. I know that very well from algebra. She'll tell me one thing, it will sit there, and it's a very different story when it comes to test time. And it's a lot like that in our walk. We hear these things at the meetings, we hear these things when we're fellowshipping with brothers and sisters, but when it's test time, do we use that knowledge? Is it in the forefront of our brain? When trials come around, we need to be ready to draw our weapon. Not only having a weapon by receiving the Holy Spirit and walking in Him and talking with the Lord, but be ready to use it. Meaning it needs to be on the forefront of our minds. We need to have this conscious knowledge at all times that we have a ticket to victory all the time, especially when we're in the dark, when we're in a difficult situation. We'll turn to Psalm 46. Psalm 46, and we'll go to verse 1. It says, God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear, though the earth be removed, though the mountains be carried into the midst of the sea. It says they're a very present help in trouble, especially. Meaning at all times, He's still there. Never leave, never forsake us. He'll always be there. Our relationship with the Lord, or His relationship with us, is not this clock in kind of job. He will always be there, always at our service, and we should be doing the same. I sometimes feel like when we need the help the most, the present help, which is like in a serious trial, people often forget to get the help. They can become so what's the word? Sometimes you can become so buried in your situation that you forget your ticket to victory. When it's there the whole time, it never left. It's a foolproof lifeline. So for a little self-example, I don't know if anyone knows this, but I really don't like school. And throughout the entire winter, I tend to get really overwhelmed with everything that's going on. I go to 2 camps during the year, and that point is the farthest away from both of them. So I'm very drained, and those are sort of like a shot, right, of life. And it just gets really isolated there. You come to meetings, you do all these sorts of things, but it's just hard, especially with all the schoolwork. And everyone there, of course, is extremely worldly, and it brings you down constantly to see so much worldliness every time you step into there every single day. And these last few weeks, around 2-3 weeks, I've been very worried about my finals. I'm passing my classes, but the problem is I'm on the line. So a bad final could do me a lot of damage, meaning summer school. And I do not want to do that. There were some nights when I was just so occupied in my brain with it that I couldn't sleep. And that's not really a mindset that we should or need to have in the Lord whatsoever. Jesus Christ died for us and died to set us free of all burden. And so we can live peacefully. And talked to my mom about it, and she told me something that I already knew, but the problem was it wasn't on the forefront of my mind. And a lot of things that happens a lot of times that happens when someone learns something, it's almost never the first time they've heard it, but they're learning to implement it at that time. So she told me I just need to not worry about it. At that point, there was no turning in old assignments. I had already turned them all in, and I just needed to study. So she said, don't worry about it, study and look to the Lord. Was having trouble still with the worry part. One single day teetered on summer school or free summer, and that put a lot of stress in me. But I did pray about it. Every single time, you can ask Pastor Steve, there's a prayer line, I would come up here and ask for prayer about these finals. And I would pray about it during family time, all these sorts of things. And finals came around. On Wednesday, I took my honors literature final. That is in the grade book as a 100. My government final, that came in the book as a 90. My mythology final didn't do so good, but it doesn't matter because it's not real. Then the big one, algebra. Didn't quite pass the final. I was 5 points off, but me and my teacher did the math. We needed a 50. I got a 65, and I passed that class, and I conquered 9th grade. And that was an extremely large blessing. And as soon as I clicked submit and saw my score, I gave a little prayer of thanks. My stress had been relieved, and I was like, the Lord had it in his hands the whole time. And that becomes very apparent when he does the actual blessing, But yes, I wasn't needing to worry. I only studied for the algebra one. The other two I got A's on, and I did not study. So yeah, he definitely helped with that. And I needed to not worry the whole time. Put it to the Lord. I needed to have that information of not worrying on the forefront of my mind, because he had given us that opportunity, and I was forgetting to use it. I was busy worrying about the outcome rather than how to help it, because I was so worried about what was going to happen. That's the thing we need to remember. When you need the power of the Lord the most, which is in those times of uncertainty and fear, don't disregard it. Because a lot of people will when they're in a state of peace and they're having a jolly old time, then they're quick to thank the Lord and all these sorts of things. But you need to do the same in every circumstance. On my notes folder of the talk ideas, I wrote under the topic that day versus night, you look outside and you see all the landscape, there's light, and at night there's no light, but it's still the same landscape. Just like the Lord sees everything the same, whether we see it as night or daytime, it's still the same circumstances, and he can help it no matter what they are. So yes, you can't disregard it, especially when you get to that dark place, or when you're constantly isolated, like school and all the worldliness. Always remember what you have. within you that the Lord gave us. Remember it, because the Lord delivers. And if you ask him, he will deliver you. Let's turn to the book of Acts. We'll go down to chapter 16. I think. I don't actually know what it was. I just wrote the verse down 2 times. It's the one that says, and it came to pass as we went to prayer. It's about the story of Paul and Silas.
16.
16. Oh, okay.
Oh, you're right then.
I was lucky. The Lord delivers. The Paul and Silas, 2 famous people among the Athens fellowship due to our hit show. Verse 16, and it came to pass, as we went to prayer, a certain damsel possessed with a spirit of divination met us, which brought her masters such gain by soothsaying. The same followed Paul and us, and cried, saying, These men are the servants of the Most High God, which show us unto the way of salvation. And she did this many days. But Paul, being grieved, turned and said to the spirit, I command thee in the name of Jesus Christ to come out of her, and he came out in the same hour. So he's just living his life, not doing anything wrong in particular, and in fact he's casting out demons. It seems like he just saved this woman. But when her masters saw that the hope of their gains were gone, they caught Paul and Silas and drew them into the marketplace unto the rulers, and brought them to the magistrates, saying, These men, being Jews, do exceedingly trouble our city. You think of when the Bible says people will call good evil and evil good. They have it backwards here. Their means of self-profit were in danger because of the Lord's work. Off topic, but still. And teach customs which are not lawful for us to receive, neither to observe, being Romans. So there they were, just doing God's work, but it seems now that they're in trouble. They are in trouble, and they're being brought in front of the Romans, and they're telling the Romans that this person is breaking the law. Question is, did they just forget? Are they going to just forget of what they have, about what they have? Verse 22, and the multitude rose up together against them, and the magistrates rent off their clothes and commanded to beat them. And when they had laid many stripes upon them, doesn't sound very nice, they cast them into the prison, charging the jailer to keep them safely. Having received such a charge, thrust them into the inner prison and bid their feet fast in the stocks. That sounds like a pretty dark place to me. It can go from doing God's work and just living your life to a dark place pretty fast. Regardless, you need to remember, you need to have the things of the Lord on the forefront of your mind. So again, it sounds like a pretty dark place to me that they're in. Whatever shall they do? And at midnight, Paul and Silas prayed and sang praises unto God, and the prisoners heard them. And suddenly, there was a great earthquake, so that the fountains of the prison were shaken, and immediately all the doors were opened, and everyone's bands were loosed. As far as I know, earthquakes don't loosen bands. And you can see the Lord worked immediately. They remembered. As soon as the opportunity came, they looked to the Lord, and he delivered. They had gotten to that dark place, and they knew that's all it is. It's just dark. It's the same land. I'm still who I am, and the Lord can deliver me, just like he always has. Imagine what would have happened if they got slammed into that prison and been so occupied with their situation that they just sat there in despair. forever. When after having had just done God's work, when you say it out loud, it sounds pretty silly. But like I said before, people can become so occupied in their situation that they do forget, and they do sit in despair because they can't see more than a foot in front of them. It's exactly why it's so important to do the things of the Lord, not only when things are going well, but when things are not going well. So you can have it on the forefront of your mind, so that you can have your ticket to safety. Yeah, so just as much, you do those things just as much when it gets dark, because that's when the Lord shines the most, in the dark. And you see it every single time. We'll look at a few scriptures quickly. We'll go to Micah chapter 7 and go to verse 8. You look around and you see the darkness and the emptiness, and I mean, it sounds pretty gloomy, and sometimes it can look fun out there. I was talking about it with my dad at dinner last night. I was telling him about, I could never leave the Lord because there's just nothing out there. There's nothing out there for me. And he goes, I mean, it's impossible. I mean, it's possible to have fun out there. If there's things to do that are fun. And I said, well, it's those things are empty. And I was like, you can be on a Ferris wheel and you can be enjoying yourself, but you mean nothing. You're going to, you have no purpose to serve. You're just there. And where was it? Go to Micah chapter 7, verse 8. Rejoice not against me, O mine enemy. When I fall, I shall arise. When I sit in darkness, the Lord shall be a light unto me. So we're around the darkness. We're on this earth. It's here. But we have a light. We have one that it's like a beacon of hope. As long as we're near it, as long as it's on the forefront of our minds, we can always beat the darkness because we have the light. It's something that a lot of people can't say that they have, or truthfully say that they have. It's something that we must remember. In a time of darkness, it is very important to remember where the light is. Look up to verse 7 right above it. It says, therefore I will look unto the Lord. I will wait for the God of my salvation. My God will hear me. He hears us. He always has. And he always will. No matter what type of mind games or thoughts you have in your head, the Lord's attitude towards us and love towards us and emotions towards us has never changed. He always loves us, and he will always be that light to us. This is something we're so incredibly blessed to have. And Jesus willingly went on Calvary to give his own life just so that we can have this. Did we deserve it? Not even remotely. And most of the world cannot say the same. They cannot say that they have this gift, so use it. It's like when you were a child and you wouldn't eat your food, and your parents would remind you that there's starving kids out there. They don't have this type of food that you do, so enjoy what you have because you have it. Because the Lord is this light to us, guiding us, leading us, and helping us, we're able to be a light ourselves. John 1:5, you don't have to turn to it. John 1:5 says, and the light shineth in darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. We have this light, and in darkness it's very important not to forget about it. It's we're very blessed to be able to have this, so use it. We need to remember, in a way, we can never be in complete darkness completely if you choose not to let it happen, because we have the light, and if when there's light, there's no darkness. Remember the light you have, and the darkness will never beat you. And all the people said, I'll leave it